Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Officials in Jamaica are warning of an unfolding catastrophe as Hurricane Melissa bears down on the island nation with sustained winds of up to 175 miles per hour. The Category 5 storm is the strongest on Earth this year and the most powerful hurricane on record ever to strike Jamaica, likely to trigger widespread flooding and landslides with catastrophic damage to buildings in the path of the hurricane's eye. Some parts of Jamaica could see up to 40 inches of rain, more rain than typically falls in an entire year. Melissa's already killed 3 people each in Jamaica and Haiti, and 1 person in the Dominican Republic. Hurricane warnings are also in effect for parts of Cuba and the Bahamas. Meanwhile, many Haitians fear the storm could worsen the humanitarian crisis in Haiti, where residents already face widespread poverty and gang violence. This is Fortune Vital, a resident of a camp for displaced people in Haiti's western Lekai region.
We have nothing in our hands to live on. If a hurricane hits, we're screwed. If the hurricane comes on top of all the problems we already have, we'll simply die. My kids, my wife, and my family are somewhere else. We have nothing to eat to survive. This adds to the problem of bandits shooting all day. There's no way out except to die.
The hurricane exploded in strength from a tropical storm on Saturday to a Category 4 hurricane on Sunday, a rapid intensification made possible by abnormally warm waters in the Caribbean. Climate scientists say human activity is causing oceans to warm dramatically, making rapidly developing storms more common. The United Nations top official says the world has failed to limit global heating to 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, the goal set by the Paris Climate Agreement to prevent the most devastating consequences of the climate crisis. Speaking with The Guardian and the Brazilian news outlet Sumauma, ahead of next month's COP30 climate summit in Brazil, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said it's now inevitable humanity will overshoot the 1.5-degree target set by the Paris Climate Agreement with devastating consequences for the world.
So overshooting is now inevitable. And so it is absolutely indispensable to change course in order to make sure that that overshooting is as small as possible, and this is a basic condition to avoid tipping points. We don't want to see the Amazon as a savanna, but that is a real risk if we don't change course and if we don't take a dramatic decrease of emissions as soon as possible.
Democracy Now! Will be in Belém, Brazil, covering the UN Climate Summit. In the Gaza Strip, aid organizations warn the amount of food and other basic goods Israel's allowed to enter the Palestinian territory continues to fall far short of the 600 truckloads per day promised under Israel's ceasefire agreement. The UN says the daily number of trucks allowed into Gaza has never passed 200 on any single day in October. Meanwhile, thousands of Palestinians are returning to neighborhoods Israel forced them to evacuate, only to find their homes in rubble. According to the UN Migration Agency, an estimated 90% of all buildings in Gaza are destroyed or damaged. This is Amal Taleb Alyan, a Palestinian from the Al-Shati refugee camp whose home was flattened by Israeli strikes.
We took the house keys. Here they are, the house keys. We took them so we would come back and find the house. But when the truce happened, we returned and we didn't find the house. We didn't even find the door. Every day when I come here, I feel like my soul leaves me. This is where I used to go, where I used to walk. This is my place, my home, my house. Here I built my life. Here I built dreams for me and the children. It's very hard to lose your home.
In the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces killed 3 Palestinian fighters during an early morning raid on a village near the city of Jenin. The raid sparked heavy exchanges of gunfire, prompting Israel's military to call in airstrikes. This comes as the Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, is pledging his forces will remain in Palestinian refugee camps in the northern West Bank until at least the end of the year. Israeli attacks on the West Bank have killed more than 1,000 Palestinians over the past 2 years, including 213 children. U.S. officials who closely examined the 2022 shooting death of Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh in the occupied West Bank were deeply divided over the Biden administration's public conclusions, with some officials convinced her killing was intentional. That's according to the New York Times, citing 5 current and former U.S. officials who worked on the case, including a career military policeman with 30 years' experience. Speaking publicly for the first time, Colonel Steve Gabovic said the U.S. government had soft-pedaled the office's findings to appease the Israeli government. He said he and his colleagues were left flabbergasted by the Biden State Department statement attributing Abu Akleh's killing to, quote, tragic circumstances. The colonel also spoke with journalist Mehdi Hassan of the news outlet Zateo.
My findings were beyond a reasonable doubt that this was an intentional killing of Shireen Abu Akleh.
This is on the 19th or 20th of May, 2022.
Yes.
This is within 10 days
Yes.
of her killing.
Yes.
You, on behalf of the United States government, are saying that beyond reasonable doubt, that's a legal standard in a criminal court.
Yes, it is.
She was intentionally killed.
Correct.
Venezuelan officials say they've captured a group of mercenaries tied to the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. In a statement, the government of Venezuela said, quote, this is a colonial operation of military aggression that seeks to turn the Caribbean into a space for lethal violence and U.S. imperial domination, unquote. Earlier this month, President Trump acknowledged he authorized the CIA to secretly conduct operations in Venezuela. On Sunday, a U.S. warship arrived in Trinidad and Tobago, leading Venezuela to cancel energy agreements with the Caribbean nation. Here's Venezuela's Vice President and Oil Minister, Delcy Rodriguez.
Estados Unidos contra Venezuela. No es un conflicto.
It's not a conflict. It's aggression from the United States, a militaristic aggression against Venezuela. President Maduro has said it. It's about Venezuela's oil and gas.
The U.S. federal government shutdown has entered its 28th day. On Monday, American Federation of Government Employees, the nation's top federal workers union, called on Congress to immediately end the shutdown by passing a spending bill that does not include the health care measures that Democrats want to protect. Everett Kelly, the president of the American Federation of Government Employees, said in a statement, quote, it's time to pass a clean, continuing resolution and end this shutdown today. No half measures and no gamesmanship, he said. This comes as the Department of Agriculture posted a notice on its website stating no federal food aid will go out November 1st. Meanwhile, President Trump has stated he will not tap into a contingency fund of $5 billion to keep SNAP, that's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, running. 1 in 8 Americans rely on SNAP food assistance. Indiana's Republican governor called for a special legislative session Monday to redraw the state's congressional map, stating if Indiana doesn't take action, quote, we'll have consequences of not working with the Trump administration as tightly as we should, unquote. The proposal could allow Republicans to win all 9 of Indiana's congressional seats. It follows similar efforts by Republicans to successfully redraw maps in their favor in Missouri, North Carolina, and Texas. President Trump's urging the Justice Department to investigate the 2020 election, writing on social media, quote, I hope the DOJ pursues this with as much gusto as befitting the biggest scandal in American history, unquote. Earlier this month, the Trump administration appointed Kurt Olson, a former Trump campaign lawyer, as a special government employee to work on election issues. Speaking to the Wall Street Journal, officials said Olson has started asking intelligence agencies about information related to the 2020 election. This comes as the Trump administration's instructed the Justice Department to send observers to New Jersey and California to monitor polling sites during elections next week. Californians are set to vote on a ballot proposition that would redraw the state's congressional districts, allowing Democrats to possibly pick up 5 additional seats in Congress. Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom called the Trump administration's moves as intimidation tactic, while California's Attorney General Rob Bonta said, quote, all indications, all arrows show this is a tee-up for something more dangerous in the 2026 midterms and beyond. President Trump met Japan's newly elected ultra-nationalist Prime Minister, Sanaya Takaichi, in Tokyo Tuesday as he continued a 6-day trip to Asia. The pair agreed to cooperate on expanding the supply chain for rare earth metals and promised to expand military cooperation, with Takaichi reiterating a pledge to increase Japan's military spending to at least 2% of gross domestic product. During their summit, she repeatedly flattered Trump, saying she plans to nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize.
In such a short period of time, the world has become more peaceful. I highly value President Trump's unwavering commitment to world peace and stability. I myself have been deeply impressed and inspired by you.
Earlier today, Japan's first female prime minister joined President Trump aboard an aircraft carrier at a U.S. naval base in Yokosuka, where Trump told active-duty soldiers he plans to keep using the National Guard to occupy American cities and that he might deploy soldiers from other military branches as well. This comes ahead of Trump's trip to a summit in South Korea, where he'll meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday. It's unclear if he will also be meeting with the North Korean leader on this trip. In Cameroon, the world's oldest president, 92-year-old Paul Biya, was re-elected Monday to an 8th term in office. This follows days of protest during which security forces killed 4 people. Cameroon's top court ruled Biya won the majority of the votes, but the opposition contested the result. Recently, dozens of opposition supporters and activists and leaders had been arrested. And in the Ivory Coast, 83-year-old incumbent President Alassane Ouattara has won a 4th term in office after an election that saw 2 of his main rivals disqualified. About half of eligible voters cast ballots, far fewer than the roughly 80% who voted in the 2010-11 elections when Ouattara was first elected. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.